destruction, decay. What is happening to the world isn't new. The world's been breaking down since its inception. Everything is winding down, including us.
Charles, never get off of me. It was not your choice to make.
Death is inevitable, but from this death comes new life.
So you're the king of the crazies.
And you are Alicia. Oh, I've been looking for someone like you for a long, long time.
Welcome to our Fear the Walking Dead WonderCon panel. My name is Tara Bennett, a senior producer for SyFy Wire, and I'm so excited to chat with the series showrunners and some of the cast today about what fans can expect in the second half of season 6 when the series returns on April the 11th. So that was an amazing trailer to tease us for the episodes to come. And so without further ado, let me introduce our co-showrunners and executive producers, Andrew Chambliss and Ian Goldberg. Hi, guys.
Hello.
And with them, of course, we have the absolutely wonderful cast members, Lennie James, who plays Morgan. Hi, Lennie.
How you doing?
Good. Colman Domingo, Strand. Hi, Colman.
Hi, good to see you.
And the lovely Jenna Elfman, who plays June. Hi.
Hello. Good to be here.
Yes, it's been too long. It was all the way back in November when we had that amazing cliffhanger ending, Damage from the Inside. And it was, kind of in the world we're in, the de facto mini break for the season. Did you have any time to kind of tinker with them or look at them or adjust some things before you guys went back into shooting?
We shut down because of the pandemic with a couple days left to shoot on 608. So that's why that was initially intended to be the finale. We're really lucky that the story, where it ended in 607 with, the kind of separation of Strand and Alicia, Strand returning to Virginia settlement and revealing Grace's presence. It really served as a great finale. We then spent, Ian and I mean, we haven't seen each other in a year, but we've probably spoken to each other more than anyone ever has.
We've seen each other a lot, just all over a computer.
Yeah.
In little rectangles.
Yes.
Yeah. We had we were fortunate. We had a lot of episodes written, but we were able to finish the season without the kind of pressure of production chasing us. We were able to kind of go back and look at, the episodes in 6B and I think do some things we normally wouldn't get to do, make sure things connect in ways that you can't always do, or, when you're working on the finale, go, oh, if we go back to 609, we could set something up here.
Yeah.
So there was kind of a lot of luxury in that regard. But we're just, I don't know, we're very eager for everyone to see it because it's been sitting on our computers and for a very long time.
Well, let me ask the actors, a little bit about, obviously everybody's been in a very weird situation of being able to work and then not being able to work and then coming back and finishing storylines. Did it just kind of feel like, coming back for a regular season when you guys were able to come back and finish shooting, or did this feel out of the ordinary and coming back what was different than, just what the normal was? I'll ask Jenna.
It definitely did not feel like the same old. Had been sitting, especially because we were in the middle of filming a season. So all of that, the storyline is just in your head and knowing what you have to go back to film, sitting there in your mind and your heart and waiting to be expressed. And then we all go through this huge life experience planet-wide. So that definitely for me was a huge shift. And I couldn't have been more grateful, ultimately being able to come back to work and being able to, we'd all been in kind of a real life survival, protecting ourselves, our families, learning what is going on in the world, and to go have the opportunity to go back and be in a creative space and express, ourselves creatively as artists, I think was just like unbelievably therapeutic and valuable, more valuable than I've ever felt it to be,
Let me ask, I'll ask Lennie, same thing. Did you have to get yourself geared back up into the space of where the progression of shooting the show would normally have kept you there, but coming back into it kind of just dry, and then going into where you were and picking up the story? How did that feel for you?
To a certain extent, I agree with Jenna. Really, I mean, it was a bit double-edged, really, because there was the coming back to work and telling the story, which is about kind of muscle memory, and you quickly get back into your stride and your ability to do that, because we've been doing it for a while and we know our characters. I think the biggest change and the hardest thing, or the thing you had to be most conscious of, was the new protocols that we were operating under, and reminding yourself of the importance of the mask, and the new routines that had to become part of your day, of how you enter the set, how you leave the set, when you put your mask on, when you take your mask off, when the different zones are active, when you test. All of those things took a little bit longer to become part of our routine, but now it's like I can't go anywhere without thinking those things through before I do anything.
Colman, how do you feel about, was there something in particular? Was it similar or different for you in the getting back into the groove of your character and the moments?
I think it's very similar to what Jenna and Lennie said, but I'll also add this. I think that we all recognize that we are coming back into a different industry, that the world has changed since, with the pandemic, with, every sort of plight that we've all been under, you know what I mean? And what we're trying to ask for and things like that. So I know that we came into a different space. And I think with a different level of care for one another, to make sure that we're really, make sure everyone has space, voice, to do the work that they need to do, how we can be a part of systemic change in our industry. So I know that that's on all of our minds in every single way. And you can just tell, I think that there's a level, I mean, like Jenna said, you really appreciate even more so being the opportunity to be on a set and do this work. And so we all make sure that we take care of ourselves, we take care of each other. We're looking out for each other even more so. Not that we're a company and a cast that has already done that, but I think it's now going to a whole other level where we want to make sure that we're all cared for,
Yeah, you guys are a family and have been together for so long. And, when you have a situation like this, obviously your show is about the aftermath of something that changes the world. And we all love to have things inspire where we can go emotionally, but this is really on the nose for you, for all of you as performers and writers and such. But, I just want to ask, when this is out of the ordinary in our lifetimes, we have never experienced anything like it, but it definitely feels like with the thematics and with what the show really has already touched and talks about, did you walk back in with a different understanding of your character, or even just, sometimes when a veil is kind of lifted just in life and you can touch that, to bring it into a character, did you have a particular feeling like that when you walk back into the show? Jenna, I'll start with you.
I definitely did. And a lot of June's story moving through the back half of season 6, she'll be going through quite a transformation. And I think, something about the pandemic certainly stripped away a lot of social veneer. And I think in a really great way. And there's something about that kind of emboldens you and gives you courage, because you just have to take you have to make bold moves, and you have to make bold changes and only listen to what's true for you. There's no more trying to appease other people. It's like, just do what is right for you and true for you, and paying attention, and so I think that there's something about the stripping away of the social veneer that we all went through in 2020 that really, I don't know, it just infected the bold choices that I made for June moving forward.
Colman, I ask you because you've been with this series from the very beginning and have been through a lot of things with your character, but for real life to have contextually giving you a different perspective, did something hit a little harder for you, or did you want to lean into something a little more with Strand, just with the personal experience and then infusing that into character?
Now that's a great question. I think that we already started to embark on, and you saw that in 6A, they were embarking on that part of Strand where he had to go for his survival instincts. And they may not be popular, but he has to go for broke. And like Jenna said, you have to go for the truth in you, whatever that is. And I think that Strand has always operated from a place of, he believes he's doing it for the greater good of everyone else. The way he does it, I think, is tricky, you know, because it is the way he does it. He wants to do it regardless of what anyone else thinks, but he's going to lean more into that direction. I think that, you know, of course, I think that our characters affect us. We affect our characters in some way, shape, or form. Not to say that I have some Victor Strand tendencies, but who's to say? I might. You never know. I mean, I'm not going to shiv somebody in the leg and shove them out to some walkers. But, you know, listen, we go through many things. We had an incredible, you know, snowstorm in Texas where, you know, with roads were frozen, and then suddenly I was looking in my fridge, and I did things like I started to look at like, well, I went straight to survival. Like I started rationing my food, looking at my meals. I started, you know, I went to the hotel. I stayed one night in the hotel room. First thing I did, I went and I scavenged, and I really looked what was in there between the candy bars, power bars, things like that. I know that the show has affected me. Where I'm like, oh, I know how to survive. I'm going to make it. I put water. I took everything that I could put water into and put water in there. I'm like, I'm prepared. I'm good. So the show has taught me a lot. So I was not stressed. I was like, I think I'm good for a while. You know,
the job preparing you for life.
It really did. It really did. I felt very calm. I was like, okay, well, I guess they're not going to do any snow removal after the third day. Okay, I'm good. I'm still good. I'm still calm. What could I use to make a shiv?
There is not a single snow removal device in Austin, Texas. They don't exist. There is no such thing
at all.
The snow removal device in Austin is called warmer weather.
Right, sunshine. Hello. You know, I'll talk to you, Lennie, just in terms of, you know, we have also known Morgan from the very beginning of The Walking Dead, and now that he's part of the Fear the Walking Dead world. And we've seen so many different versions of him. And when we last saw him in the last episode of Fear, he was making some moves, you know, that were a little different from maybe the different incarnations and mindsets that Morgan has had in the past. But again, where your character is, where you're playing him, and then having, you know, a little bit of a different life example to bring into the show. Tell me where your mind was coming back into these episodes.
Well, I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you that there have been different versions of Morgan, but for me, they're all the same guy.
Yeah.
It's just about what he needs to do in any given circumstance in order to survive and protect the people that he loves, and or the people that he cares for, the people that rely on him. And at this particular moment in time, he needs to protect his people from Virginia, and he needs to get past Virginia to whatever the next obstacle is going to be, and he's preparing himself for that. And, you know, so I'm asked quite a lot about, you know, which version of Morgan do I prefer playing, and I always answer by saying they're the same guy. When he's desperately trying to be kind of all life is precious and I won't kill Morgan, he is holding the beast that he knows can walk through walls at bay. And when he's walking through walls and the beast is out, the kind of passive Morgan is in his ear, trying to remind him of his humanity. So they're all the same guy, and I try and navigate them. And I think that in 606, in 6B, that's going to be challenged again, and he may have to kind of dig deep to find, for want of a better phrase, another version of himself.
All right, that sounds like a really good place for us to give the audience a little tease on these episodes. And we do have a clip from the new episodes that shows a very desperate Virginia, and she wants to find Morgan and her sister. So let's take a look.
Where's you been hiding out?
Where's who been hiding?
Who the hell do you think I'm talking about? Morgan Jones. Well? He couldn't have been out there all on his own. You know Old Timer?
I don't know anything.
You were always saying that.
Hey, no, he doesn't know anything.
You don't have to know anything. Somebody does.
Okay, so that definitely is showing where Jenny is right now, and I'd love to talk to Andrew and Ian about, you know, we have really seen her getting more and more potent as the season has gone on. So let's talk about where she's going to be when we come back. That clip gives us a little taste of it, but tell me about where you wanted to play her and what to expect.
Well, this season has been, as much as it's been a test for all of how our characters are changing within Virginia's communities, it's also a sense of how Virginia is being tested.
Yeah.
Because things have not exactly gone her way. If you look back as early as episode 601, when she sent out a bounty hunter in Emil to kill Morgan, and by the end of that episode, Morgan had delivered Emil's head in a box and said, "You're dealing with someone else now." I think Virginia knew the game was not playing by the rules she'd hoped for. So we've been seeing Virginia tested in a lot of ways. And we also have seen beyond the threats that are coming from within, there's also this other group that we've been teasing that are spray painting the end as the beginning, that we saw involved in the destruction of Tanktown in episode 606. So the walls are really closing in on her. And I think you see someone who, when we first introduced her, was so confident and kind of ruling these communities, you know, in her own fiefdom. Now the walls are starting to close in around her, and she's becoming more erratic and more desperate. And, you know, it also hinges around the fact that when we left her at the end of 607, Damage from the Inside, her sister, Dakota, was in the wind. And that's someone who means a great deal to her. And that just adds to that feeling of desperation. And what is she going to do next? And we see from that clip, she's becoming more and more, as you said, potent.
She doesn't have a hand. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
A new scent by Virginia. Exactly.
Well, you know, I do want to talk about the fun of writing a character like Virginia. She's played so beautifully by Colby. You get to write big bads, you know, technically, these huge presences that our core cast has to push against or fight against or, you know, exist against. What's been really fun about Virginia, what she's added to the dynamic, and then I'll talk to, you know, some of the cast about what it's like having her as a Spectre, as an adversary this season.
Yeah, I think I'd say the thing that is most fun, and some people just said it, it's honestly the way Colby Minifie brought Virginia to life. You know, when we wrote the sides for her and we got all the auditions, I think me and Ian and Scott Kimple all ended up watching them like within 15 minutes of each other, but all in separate places. And like we all sent each other emails at the same time saying, "Oh my God, it has to be Colby." And she just brought kind of such a groundedness to a character who was written in a way that's larger than life. I mean, the way she talks, you know, in this kind of very regional Texas style, it would be very easy to make that feel like a kind of a cartoon, but she gave it kind of so much reality that it really allowed us, as we were starting to go into season 6, to really view her not just as like a big bad, but I think, you know, if you were to ask us, Virginia sees herself as the hero of her story. She thinks everything she's doing is what needs to be done. And it really was, I think, having that point of view and carrying her forward allowed her to be such a foe for everyone. You know, she's someone who can push all the buttons, who knows, how to get people to do what she wants. And that's kind of the fun. And I think that's what's interesting about seeing her, as we do in that clip, really back on her heels. She's not used to being in that position. So, she's cornered and she's kind of like a wounded animal. So, there's going to be lots of kind of unexpected stuff coming from her.
I want to ask you, Lennie, when, as you spoke about a little bit earlier about what's taking care of what's important to him, the people that mean something to him has been Morgan's kind of true north. And the interesting thing about Virginia is that her sister has been so important to her and true north and the motivation, I think, for some of the really extreme things that she's done. Is there an understanding that you think your character has for her, or is there looking at a version in some ways of where if Morgan didn't have his compass, that she looks like what he could be?
I don't actually think that Morgan thinks that Virginia is there, a kind of there, but for the grace of God go I. I don't think that he thinks that she's at the end of any path that he might walk down. I think for me, it's much more about the fact that she's probably the most successful adversary that Morgan's ever come up against. In the sense that, at the moment she is, as far as we know, she's running at least 7 survival places and running them quite successfully, and until she comes across her. So of course she thinks he's the hero in her own story. As far as Morgan's concerned, he doesn't necessarily want to stop her. He just wants them to be separated from each other. He's quite ready to allow Virginia to walk in and exist on another plane, just as long as it doesn't affect him and the people that he cares about. And that's the separation that he's seeking. He's not looking to destroy her. He's just looking to separate.
Do you think that June feels the same way, Jenna? Is there let's just ask that.
I think June's kind of had it up to here with Virginia. Maybe up to here. I think we'll probably explore that a little more as the season goes on. It's a very vulnerable position. I think June's still kind of in shock that John chose the fork in the road that he did, and that I have no contact with him. I think it makes her second guess her choice to save Ginny. I mean, that was certainly not what June was intending to have as the result of making this critical decision. I think June thought she was acting for the greater good, and I don't think she ever estimated properly how upset John was, or that he could ever actually get that upset. I just don't think she ever thought someone like him could go that dark. And so I think that's an underestimation on her part that certainly circled back and bit her. So she's on high alert and is over it. And as you say, Virginia has gotten more potent. I think, I'm so excited about the back half of season 6 because the entire thing gets extremely potent for every character. Every character is going to be hit by impacts of life that truly change them, that will launch us into season 7. That, in a way that just catapults the story, because every character is going to be profoundly changed by significant experiences they are going to go through each of these episodes in the back half, that I think are they're very dynamic. It's more change than any of these characters have gone through on Fear yet, which I just think is thrilling, and how it really pushes the story forward. And then as an actor, I just think it's really fun, because we get to really, Lennie's had the beautiful opportunity of being with Morgan through all of these evolutions and impacts that Morgan has gone through. And, with Fear, I'm just very grateful. I love getting to play June. I love all these changes I get to play as an actor. It's just really fun to take them through these journeys.
And I wanted to ask Colman with Strand, that he's an assessor. he knows game when he sees it. He knows how to figure out personalities and work within it or around it or through it. With Virginia, just give me a little insight into how you have kind of approached her as you know, an adversary and as you know, really a roadblock to survival for this group.
I think even the way Strand has been built from the very beginning is that he's a negotiator. He's pragmatic, and he will truly assess the situation and see. And I think, you know, I loved exploring that. Alicia and I talked about that when we walked into Virginia's, you know, area in the beginning of 601, 602, when he can see, like, the thing I wanted to do is, like, I talked to Mikey about it as well, Michael Satrazemis. I said, I wanted to take a look around, because he has to assess everything. It's like, fresh flowers. What are they doing over here? She's got this going on. Okay, well, how can I figure this out and make it work for me? So I think he's very willing to do that. He's like, let me not push against it. Let me see how I can work within this to survive. I think that's what his key to survival has always been. He said, well, let me lean into the situation and see what's available to me. How can I get some agency in this world right now? Who do I need to sort of make a deal with? And he will make it, and usually it's not a popular decision, but he will make it, because I think he's got to follow his gut. And he's like, well, I know everybody is caught up in their feelings about this. I'm not that person. I will say, we may lose some people, someone may die, but everyone else will survive. And I think he's willing to make those decisions. And I think that he's going to sort of, I don't know, I think we've been seeing him sort of double down on that a little bit and trust his instincts, because that's the key to his survival, which is why he is still here, you know?
It's got to count for something.
He's like, well, it can't be all that bad. I can't be that awful. Still alive.
Don't forget to sprinkle in the dash of ego. Don't forget that.
Just a little bit. A little ego. A little ego goes a long way. You know, you need that in an apocalypse. You know?
For reality's sake, that's for sure. That's for sure. Well, we do have another clip from the episodes coming. So let's take a look at this.
All right. We'll clear the pass from up there. Keep from getting tangled in the wheels. Provided you can get us across.
My daddy used to let me drive a 6-speed in the church parking lot on Sunday afternoon, so I didn't usually get this crowded.
Okay. Well, I'll talk you through it. Here, in case things get bumpy.
Hey! Hey guys, what's going on?
Put it in first! Hey, give it to Doc! Clear it!
So that was a rough to leave us on a cliffhanger as to how the rest of that goes off. But Ian and Andrew, let's talk a little bit about, the show has always been really interesting in that it does group together unexpected characters. It allows us to understand characters more through their interactions with each other. Tell me a little bit about those pairings as we move towards the finale to lead into where you're going to go next.
Well, one of the things, okay.
Yeah.
One of the things that we see in that clip is the reunion of Morgan and John Dorie, who have not been in the same place together since the beginning of the season. And without, going too much into that, because I think a lot of the fun of that episode is exploring that dynamic that, Morgan's journey on fear began with John Dorie, and John Dorie's journey began with Morgan. These two have been through so much together. They're best friends, and we're going to see that dynamic, sort of the next evolution of that dynamic in this episode. John, as Jenna alluded to, he did take that fork in the road at the end of 606. We know he's in a place where he's punishing himself, where he doesn't feel like he can be here anymore. He's in a really low point, the lowest we've ever seen John Dorie at the end of that episode. And without going too far into it, the reunion of Morgan with John Dorie is going to have huge impacts on both of them. And we know what John and Morgan's relationship is. We know we've seen a bit of Morgan with Dakota. We have not seen much of Dorie with Dakota.
Yeah.
And we will. And that's all I can say about that.
That's good. Well, Andrew, let's talk a little bit about, really moving towards, you always have these really explosive, literally and figuratively, season finales, and we're heading there. And it also always sets us up for where the broader storytelling is going to go afterwards. So was there anything particular, aside from the outside world imploding, that, you were both going for in terms of where you need these characters to be at the end of season 6 and where you really want to push them as they move forward?
Yeah, and I think, Jenna, Lennie, and Colman have alluded to this as they've been kind of talking about their characters' journeys this season. For us, 6B really was about kind of turning the screws on everyone as much as we could and pushing everyone to their extremes. And, some characters are going to break, some aren't, some are going to embrace who they are, or who they've become, some are going to run from it. And, the end of this season is going to have kind of far-reaching changes, both for the characters, for the world they inhabit, and it really is going to change what this show is going forward into season 7. And I mean, it's hard for me to say much more than that because we've got 9 episodes to get us there. But we're very excited about it. And I want to say, we've produced these 9 episodes during the pandemic under these safety protocols. But our cast and our crew in Austin has done such an incredible job. I think when we knew we were going to have all these restrictions, we're always wondering, is there going to be like an asterisk next to these episodes where people would say like, oh, well, that's because it was shot during a pandemic? But honestly, these episodes are some of the best we've produced, and it just comes down to the hard work of everyone in Austin who has kind of given it their all while at the same time being safe. So just excited that we get to kind of show off everyone's hard work.
Lennie, how you have been from the pilot of The Walking Dead, and now through the lifespan of Fear the Walking Dead. So you've seen it all and lived it all. But when you get a script like you're going to get for the finale, that's leading into the excitement of redefining and playing your character with different notes. What was your reaction, and what has you most excited? Because it just, again, is giving us another facet of Morgan as he moves forward and trying to stay alive.
I think this finale has real big balls. I think it is. I think it's
something about you with that accent. So it just made it even weirder. I don't know what it is.
I think that, and I also think that the guys have earned the right to have this finale because of the way we've been telling the story over this season, and the way that we've been going into the anthology storytelling, and we've come to this, and it's epic and it's massive, and it is also intimate, and it's tiny, and it all happens over such a short space of time. The entire finale is like it happens over a held breath. And then you just see the effect of what's happening to our characters within that held breath. And I just think it's brave storytelling. I think it's storytelling that we've earned the right to explore. I think that we've got the characters that can incorporate and live in this finale, and it's all justifiable, and it's just great big balls storytelling, and I love it.
Well, that's a compliment, Ian and Andrew.
I never thought I'd be getting that when we decided
I'm gonna get a t-shirt. I'm gonna get a t-shirt and send it to you. We got great big balls.
T-shirt season 7. I want to see that. Well, and I'll just ask, Ian and Andrew, it's never easy, coming out of a season as writers. You're exhausted, you're tired. This has been arguably the weirdest season just because of life and circumstances. But does season 7, coming off of your finale that you wrote for 6, have you the most scared to go back into the writer's room, or was it the most exciting? Just because as writers, you either write yourself into a corner or you write yourself into what you're excited to jump into. How do you frame as you're in season 7 now?
Well, I mean, I think I would say this season had me incredibly excited to start writing, because it was taking all, I think, the lessons we've learned and especially all the things we loved about season 6, and keeping the good stuff and then changing up everything else. So it was really kind of refreshing as a writer to have a blank slate in that regard.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, every episode brings with it its own terrors and anxieties and insecurities, but honestly, just tremendous excitement for the constant reinvention we get to do, and the wonderful family of people that we get to do it with. I can't say it gets any easier, but it just keeps getting better and better, both on the process and the personal front. So very grateful for that.
Well, we are so excited to see where 6 ends, where this epic conclusion that you've teased to us is going to, what it's going to look like in its specifics. But until then, I have to thank you guys for your time. It's really wonderful to talk to you guys about your characters, and it just, it's been a very weird year, and your time is really appreciated for this, as well as the work that you do on the show always. So I want to thank Lennie, Colman, Jenna, thank you so much. It's so great to have you. And Ian and Andrew for giving us the sneak peek at where we're going, and in the short run with season 6, and in the long run. And thank you everybody at home for joining us today. Fear the Walking Dead returns on Sunday, April 11th, 9 p.m., 8 p.m. Central on AMC. And new episodes will be available early on Thursdays before they air if you have AMC Plus. So thanks so much, everybody, for your time. And we cannot wait to see where it all ends up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.